Hey everyone, welcome back to Robert's Rental Project. My name is Robert, and in today's video we'll be talking about how I created our boxwood hedge for the front of our yard. I'll be explaining how I planned it, how I dug the project out, how I planted them, and how I amended the soil and then mulched on top of everything. This is our home as of a couple years ago. It is mainly dead grass and dirt, so we wanted to change that because we need more green spaces in our life. And this is the plan that I drew out for our house, and as you can see here, you can take a couple seconds to examine it. I mapped out where the trees currently are, the big blobs of trees, and the very front at the bottom of your screen is the project that we're going to do today, and it is the boxwood hedge. And then on the other side is just a mirrored image but with different plants in it. Then on each side of the front yard I want to put in some privacy hedges, some English or Indian laurels, just to create a little border and a lot more green. Then in the back we'll have more laurels or arborvitaes, and then an orchard and some flower beds in the back for some vegetables and fruits, things like that. This is some of the inspiration that we're taking for our house. It has black and white paint, which we'll be talking about in another video, an upcoming video. And then as you can see, there's a lot of boxwoods around it, and those give it a little bit more structure and looks fancier. But as you can see, it has a lot of green, and that just makes everything pop and the house pop compared to its background. So here I'm showing you guys how we needed to make sure that the dirt and the concrete sidewalk in front of our house are not level, because then the mulch can't go up to there and it'll just spill out because it won't have anything to be holding it back with. So right here I just dug out a little trench where I'm going to put the edging, and in the front too, just a little small 5-inch trench all around the perimeter of where I'm going to plant my boxwoods, so that it holds in the drip tubing and also the edging and the mulch. Then you want to plan out how you're gonna plant your boxwoods, and I put mine at around 2.5 feet from each other and a foot from the inside going out, and then 2 feet from looking at the sidewalk towards the house. And if you encounter any sprinkler pipes, things like that, I just cut it. I have a little saw that I use to cut them, and we won't be using sprinklers anymore because we're planning on putting in artificial turf in the front yard so that there's no maintenance and that we don't have to keep watering it, using a lot of water for that, and it'll just be green all year round and look better. So I use water to help make it easier to dig each hole, and I put water in for like an hour. I let it soak in, and I just filled them up to the top and then waited an hour. Then the soil usually becomes more malleable and easy to dig through. We had pebbly soil, so it was really hard to dig these. It took me quite a while because there is 22 boxwoods or something like that. So just take your time and make sure that you dig your holes the size of the container plus about 3 inches from either side. But from the bottom, I would recommend that you stick to wherever it's at, just so that the container depth, just so that it doesn't sink in when you plant them. And then you'll have an off-level hedge, and then the root ball and the trunk would be underground, which is not something that your plant should go through. If you don't want to use boxwoods for your little hedge or any little project that you're doing, you could also substitute them for laurels in a bushy type, or lavender, or any little shrub like that. But I chose boxwoods because their leaves are really nice to look at, and they grow smaller than other plants, so I don't have to be pruning them all that often. And when I do prune them, they'll look nice and structured as a little border or a little wall around our yard. Once I dig the holes, I laid landscape fabric or weed barrier, and I just rolled it out and then stapled it all around the area of where I'm going to be planting this garden bed slash boxwood hedge. I added those 2 extra feet in the front of the trunks in order to plant little flowers or annuals, any little color that brings pop to the eye. And then I can just connect them to the drip when I'm going to do that. And this helps to keep the weeds out and provide like a block between your mulch surface and your dirt so that weeds don't go into your mulch. But even with all landscape fabrics that I've found to use, none of them really work, so you will have to plan against that. Especially if you're not using drip, and if you're just watering from like afar, the water splashes everywhere and then it gets down into the fabric, and weeds are very hard to suppress, so they just grow right through any of your weed barriers. So drip tubing is another plus that we'll be talking about in another video, and it helps to eliminate the waste of water when you're watering. It has a schedule, so you don't have to worry about how often or how much water you have to give your plants, and it just simplifies the whole process of watering. You're going to be using a lot of landscape staples, so I suggest that you just buy a big box of them. I buy them by the 500 packs at Lowe's, and all the items in this video will be linked down in the description below, so feel free to look at those. You want to make sure that all your corners are all landscaped in with the fabric, and any other little weeds like that, you could hit them with like a weed killer, but that is really hard work because you're going to need a lot of that because weeds grow very fast. Once I put in my fabric, you just locate the holes and you cut little X's along them from side to side. And I like folding the fabric into the little flaps into the crevices that are under the fabric. And then now I can just pop the plant in with some fertilizer and I'm done. These are the boxwoods that we got at the local nursery here. They're a Japanese boxwood in a 15-gallon nursery pots. green. We did this in the fall, early fall, so it was nice weather and easy planting. When you're planting your boxwoods, you should make sure that you amend the soil just with a little something. I used an Espoma organic fertilizer. Espoma's a really good organic brand, and it helps your soil to be rich in the nutrients that it needs in order for your plants to prosper correctly. Every time that I plant any plant, I use a little rake or my hands to just break up the root ball and tell the plant that it's going to be planted. This helps also to take off a lot of big roots if it's root bound before planting. I didn't grab the right fertilizer for this job because plant tone is usually used after your plants are planted, so I would suggest like a biotone starter fertilizer, and that just helps your plants when they're starting out. Then you can use the plant tone when you're done planting, and it has the instructions on the back, so it's just easy to know when you fertilize your plants. This just makes them happy all year round. I work in the fertilizer into the soil with this little hand rake just to make sure that it's all in there, and then I have a bucket on hand with extra soil to fill in the spots where it needs to be filled at. You want to make sure that you don't plant the start of your trunk below the surface, because then it can lead to damage and the rotting of the trunk. So just make sure that it's a little bit, like about an inch or a little bit more over the soil level. Then you want to deep water your plants. Make sure that all around them is nice and moist. Just lift up the flaps from underneath the fabric. Just place those right over the root ball. It just helps eliminate even more weeds from growing out through that space. And it helps keep everything more tidy. And you just want to repeat this process. This is more of the easier part of the project, so it's really relaxing and it gives you a sense of hope because you're almost done, and it makes everything look even nicer. Here I used a different type of landscape fabric because I ran out of the other one and I couldn't find it anymore, but I double layered this one because it was too small and thin and I knew that weeds were gonna rip right through it. But now I use a plastic one, a better commercial grade one. I still have weeds growing through some of the areas on it, so I would just recommend that you put a thick layer of mulch all around it, which mulch is a natural weed suppression alternative, but I just use both to make sure that no weeds are gonna get through any of my surface. This little kneeling pad, if you don't have one, I suggest getting one from any local hardware store or nursery store. It just helps out your knees because you're gonna be on them a lot, planting all your stuff and doing a lot of gardening stuff with it. Now that I planted all my boxwoods in, I'm just putting some mulch over them. I haven't done the edging yet, but I got a little excited with the mulch, so I started laying it down. I put it in front because I won't be putting any edging there, so it just looks tidier, because this project took me a lot of time. Because I couldn't work on it consecutively, so I had to separate it out in between about a month. But even with just a third of the mulch down, it's starting to look a lot better than before. The plain dirt. This is the black mulch from Home Depot, and I think that one's really good mulch. It's like $3 around there. But then later on in different projects around the house, I use the Lowe's black mulch, but I just find that to be a little bit more cheap in quality, even though it's Lowe's, which is supposed to be better, but I don't know. The Home Depot one looks good too, and I prefer that one. So if you're deciding on one or the other, the Home Depot one is a thicker mulch and it looks darker, and it's not as moldy as the Lowe's mulch, so I would recommend that one. Right here, I am planning on putting another little bed on the other side to mirror this circle-like image, and it'll be a little tree ring / garden bed around the tree, just to keep that area tidy as well. I would mulch that and then put drip if needed. Then on this side, another little bed, maybe a little fountain or a bird bath on there, and then more mulch and drip that too, so that the whole place looks like a consecutive design and more vibrant. Thank you for watching another video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment with any questions, comments, or concerns down in that comment section. Please hit the notification button to receive more videos just like this one and any upcoming videos on different little projects around the house. In the description box, I'll list all the materials and supplies that I used, so feel free to check that out, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.